We kill 92 billion land animals a year for food.
Not for the sake of sensationalism or not for the sake of likes, but if everyone turns vegetarian, what would the world be like?
We're talking about solving climate change, resource efficiency, food security.
So, Shreya, we'll talk about the ABC of life. They say, birth and death, you have C, which is a choice. We'll start off with the A. I think the heart is in the right place, which is animals. We know that that love is due for the animals, care, they might not be treated in the right way. But you have actually pointed out something very, very interesting. There's a vast difference between pet lovers and animal lovers. And one of your recent hardcore fights is to give animals their fair right to live. What have you seen that has disturbed you? Whether it is in the slaughterhouses, whether it is in the homes of the rich, what has bothered you and what's the way ahead?
How long do we have? An hour? 2 hours?
Take your time.
Where do I begin? We kill 92 billion land animals a year for food. 92 billion individual lives we're talking about. They're not numbers. When when you go to these dairy farms or when you go to these slaughterhouses, they have a number tag. They're not numbers. They're individual sentient living beings. And we kill trillions of fish every single year for food. And 1/3 of the food that we produce is also thrown away. So imagine for you, it's 10 minutes of food. For that animal, it's its entire life. And I've seen it all. I mean, you mentioned the pet lover versus animal lover. When people say, oh, I love animals, they mean I only love dogs and cats. But for me, pigs, chickens, sheep, cow, any other animal, it's usable. It's for my consumption. I will treat them the way that I want to treat them. I will abuse them. I will slaughter them. I will kill them. I will murder them without giving two thoughts to it. We're so disconnected from what the reality is. We're so disconnected from, the feelings of these animals. They're no different. A cow, if you play with a baby cow, a calf is no different from a puppy. It'll jump the same way. It feels affection the same way. I was in a Gaushala 2 days ago. You give them neck rubs, they'll just come, they'll hug you. They'll be on your lap. Talk to it, look in the eyes of an animal. The same pain that a cow or a chicken will feel, it's the exact same pain that a dog and cat would feel. So why do we discriminate? Why are some animals for consumption and why are some animals meant to be loved? It's only mental conditioning. And we take that a step further when you have the leather industry and the silk industry as well. If there's so many people that I know who are vegetarian, but it's okay to wear leather and it's okay to wear silk. If you don't eat meat, why is it okay to wear it? So I've seen it all. As you said, slaughterhouses, the conditions that these animals are kept in, you wouldn't want to be kept that way. They're starved, they're taken in cramped trucks illegally across states as well. Pregnant cows are butchered, buffaloes are slaughtered, male calves in the dairy industry are killed or starved to death, depending on what state we're talking about. India is one of the largest exporters of beef and leather. Yeah. How does that happen? So, it's just about questioning where our food is coming from, who we're killing for our food, and whether, that animal wants to die in the first place. These are ancient practices. We live in a world where we have perfectly healthy, whole, complete plant-based foods. We don't need to rely on these animals anymore. Even if I'm talking about just in calorie inefficiency, every 9 calories that a chicken eats, it'll give you 1 calorie. Why can't you just eat the grain directly? The amount of land we're using, the amount of water, the amount of resources, carbon emissions. It doesn't make sense whether you use the health argument, the ethical argument, the sustainability argument, or the spirituality argument. Eating animals in 2025 no longer makes sense, especially in terms of what we're doing to these animals.
You should be a lawyer. you declared what the problem is, you declared the judgment as well. But I'll tell you what, I've been on this side of discussions as well. And some people very conveniently say, maybe rightly or wrongly, we only have an opinion, is the balance of life, the balance of nature is what they speak about. Animals eat the plants, and it's a long story cut short. So are you trying to say that everybody should turn vegetarian? And tell me, very honestly, Shreya, not for the sake of sensationalism or not for the sake of likes, but if everyone turns vegetarian, what would the world be like? How many animals are we actually talking about? How much pressure are you talking about on the industries to develop vegetables, you think all the vegetables are organic today. There's so much that is actually chemicalized. So talk to me, and now I'm asking you the question, the world that you want to visualize. Let's visualize it
I'm
together,
not even
Shreya.
talking about vegetarianism because
Okay.
the dairy industry is the beef industry. Take me on that. And when I say the dairy industry is the beef industry, is I'm asking you what happens after the cow can no longer give milk. Cows don't give milk, mothers give milk. When the cow stops giving, the cow only will give milk when it's pregnant or when it's lactating. The milk is meant for its baby. Humans are the only mammals that drink milk from another mammal. Why don't we drink dog's milk, cat's milk, rat's milk? They're all mammals, right? They all give milk. Just because the quantity of milk that a cow gives, we exploit that mother. You're literally taking that motherhood away, breaking that bond between the mother and the child. And as I said, male cows are unprofitable to the dairy industry, so they will either be slaughtered right away. This happens in India till today on a daily basis, or they're going to be starved to death. So you see that a lot. There's a practice called khalbacha, where the head of the baby will be kept near the cow just for it to keep giving milk, because the mother only gives milk for the baby. So this is a very common practice. It's very widely known. The cow is artificially inseminated over and over again. She's made pregnant over and over again because it's the only way she'll give milk. The age span of that cow goes from 25 years to 8 years. And after, they're done with it, they either, you'll see cows on the roads everywhere eating plastic, or they're sent to the slaughterhouse. Meat and leather. So I'm not talking about vegetarianism. I'm actually talking about just taking animals and animal byproducts out of our system completely. The impact that it would have, to feed someone who is vegan or on a plant-based diet, you're using 1/6 acre of a land. To feed someone who's eating meat, you're using 6 acres of land. Imagine the amount of land that we're clearing up. When people come to me saying, "Oh, but we're growing tofu and we're growing soy and we're doing all of this, we're doing this for vegetarians and vegans." No, 80% of the soy that's grown today is grown to feed animals that we end up eating. Imagine if this food was grown to feed human beings. We're talking about solving world hunger. We're talking about solving malnutrition. We're talking about freeing up our resources. The amount of emissions that would go down. Animal agriculture contributes to more than 16% of global greenhouse gas emissions. We're talking about solving climate change, resource efficiency, food security, living ethically, living in harmony with nature, as I was talking about, eliminating industrialized animal agriculture, eliminating factory farming, taking off animals off our plate is not just good for us, it's good for the planet. It's good, as I said, in every form, shape, and capacity. So why aren't we moving towards that?
Now help me clarify these 2 points. All right. One is you're saying the human beings should not be drinking cow's milk. I kind of believe that this is something that our ancestors have been adapting and adopting to. Would we actually very confidently say that our mindset from eons ago is the problem? The Indian culture is to be blamed. India's tradition, parenting tradition, fingers are to be pointed at them. Are you trying to tell me that?
Not at all, because we didn't organize the dairy industry in India. The British did. The dairy industry today, the organized dairy industry, is what colonialism started in this country. If you ask, growing up, if you ask your grandparents if they ever had cheese growing up, think about how much paneer they had growing up. Yogurt, the way we had it was not part of our Indian culture. So much of this organized dairy came from colonialism, 100%. But the way our ancestors lived was respecting that cow. Most of the families had a cow in their backyard. They knew where the milk was coming from. They knew that the calf was taking the milk that it needed, and they were taking whatever leftover milk. There was respect. The way industrialized dairy works today, it's on a completely different scale. You're talking about feeding 8 billion people. The practices are not the same. The amount of adulteration in milk, that most of the paneer that you get today is fake. Test it. There's, recent news it shows that there was pig fat in ghee. Look at the adulteration in ghee. Look at what we're doing to food to make it scalable, to make it more profitable. The purity is not the same. So what our ancestors did back in the day for survival is very different from what we do in this day and age. They don't have access to the resources that we do. They don't have access to the amount of knowledge that we have right now. So having all of this and saying we want to live the way our ancestors did, don't use your phone, right? Why do you want to have modernity in one way by saying that, oh, but I'm going to do this because, Ayurveda said it. Ayurveda also permitted pigeon meat. Why don't you eat that? So what is this buffet system that I will pick and take whatever I want to take out of it and I'll reject everything else? That's not how it works. Things have changed. Times have changed. We have moved on. We've changed with practices. And if you know very clearly, there are videos everywhere that there's cruelty involved, there's exploitation involved, why aren't we willing to change? Just because of culture, because of tradition? Traditions have always changed. Sati was a practice here in this country. Our ancestors did that. Are you okay with practicing that? There was slavery all around, right? We fought for it. We fought against it. So if that is slavery, what we're doing to the animals today, they're tied with short ropes, they defecate, they pee in the same place they're standing in, there's no movement at all whatsoever. If you're doing that to the animal, and if there's liberation for them, there's liberation for us. Trust me. Because the amount of health diseases that come from these cramped places, they're coming to us. Bird flu, COVID, it came from birds and animals. Why is that?
Very interestingly said. So, are you saying, Shreya, that your lifestyle, which you are living, the vegan lifestyle, is best for every human being around, and the world becomes a better place if we all adapt and adopt to it? Because I'll tell you one thing. Let's play a real card here. Every decision has a side effect. Every decision has a ripple effect. Imagine everyone here, not a community, but everybody, entirety starts living Shreya's lifestyle. What is going to be to the world? What will the world look like? And what's the problem if we all change that way? One problem I can see is that these corporates won't earn as much as they intend to. But what is the side effect of it? How will the world look like? And what's the disadvantage if everybody turns vegan?
For everything, there's a transition that's needed. Nothing is going to happen overnight. We're talking about livelihoods, jobs, economy, everything that is dependent on it. That would have to shift to fairer, more equitable systems, right? And if we talk about corporations, we talk about, where the world is today. What state are we in? Are we happy? The world that we're living in today, with the amount of money that we're amassing, what direction are we heading in? What is the GDP saying about the quality of our lives? What is it saying about the way that we live today, the way that we interact, with each other? Are our problems solved? Is everyone, are all of our issues gone right away? So it's not about, I think, what's going to go away. It's about what steps we would need to take to get there. So yeah, of course, there's just transition that's required. We've bred these animals.
Yeah.
They're not wild animals. We've bred these animals. People always ask me what would happen to all these cows. I mean, we would have to, over time, give it time to... We would have to give it time for, these animals to live their full lives. We would have to stop the breeding. We would have to change these practices. So nothing's going to happen overnight. But the more we start demanding it, slowly, at least we'll see the change in our lifetimes, if, nothing else. So I don't believe that the world is going to go vegan overnight. I don't believe that just by me talking to 5 people, everything is going to change.
Well, the way you say, I can trust you, things will change. I had the same doubt, Shreya. I'm like, this girl, no matter how much she says, it might affect a few people, but will it force them to change?
I don't care about that. If 5 people are listening to me, one of them decides to quit wearing
We have a bigger audience than 5, I can trust. I can promise you. Yeah.
But it's about one individual. If I'm planting a seed and if you watch Maa Ka Doodh, I'm not even asking you to watch any foreign documentaries because there's a big misconception that veganism is a foreign concept. We started it. So much of our Indian culture, like millets and whatever is making a comeback now, is from our culture. Ahimsa, the word, the biggest form of non-violence, the word comes from our culture, Buddhism, Jainism. It's, one of our first principles. And it doesn't say only, non-violence towards humans. It says non-violence towards all living beings. That's what it is. That's ahimsa, right? So it's not a foreign concept to us at all, in any form, shape, or capacity. So when I'm, talking to people, I just tell them, watch Maa Ka Doodh. It's based on Indian context. It's based on what happens in the Indian dairy system. Please watch that. Please go to, where your milk comes from. Go to slaughterhouses if you have the will. Because if you can't watch it, how can you eat it?
Correct.
If you're not okay with showing slaughterhouse footages to your children, how are you okay with them eating it? If you don't know where your leather comes from, if you're not willing to watch that footage of a baby calf being skinned for a glossy leather bag, how are you okay with using it? Question that.
You run this amazing podcast, and that's where I got to know of you, Sustainability with Shreya. So you talk to people who are like-minded across the entire world. You've spoken to some very interesting people. I want you to tell us in the own way, what are the conversations you've had, and can you highlight 3 or 4 things that you've come across that shocked you and said, how can nobody speak about this? What did you come across? Whether it is in the beauty industry, whether it's in the hospitality, whether it's in the medical industry, pharmaceutical industry, what did you see that said, I'm shocked with this. I want to tell the world about this.
I
What
think
was
that
it?
happens every conversation because
Yeah.
I've spoken to doctors, I've spoken to lawyers, I've spoken to the a former president of Ireland, I've spoken to quite a diverse range of people, right, who are fighting for a better world, as I said, in their own way. And the truth is that we're going to need everyone. We're going to need lawyers, we're going to need dancers, we're going to need painters, we're going to need lawyers, everyone.
Sure.
From
Sure.
every space to come together and decide that unitedly we're going to do this and we're going to take on this monster, whatever that is. But to be fully honest with you, I had a conversation yesterday with a really cool animal rights activist who is from Chennai. His name is Sai Vignesh, and he's dedicated his whole life to fighting for these animals and giving them a second life, literally saving them from jaws of death, even though he's had death threats himself. He told me about this, that there are cows, there are pregnant cows that are butchered for their fetal meat. We consume, the fetal meat is sold at a really high price. So imagine impregnating these cows, killing them while they're pregnant just to take out the fetus, because the fetal meat is sold for a high price, and that's what we consume. And I'm like, the amount of cruelty for us to disconnect from this reality so much, to want that, knowing what you're doing. Imagine doing that to a pregnant mother, to take the fetus away, for someone to consume that as a delicacy. That's how disconnected we are. The way these animals are transported, they put green chilies in their eyes, they're shoved with broken glasses, because the more in pain they are, that's the only way to get them standing. So they try to cramp these animals in small trucks and vehicles that they carry them in. So the only way to have these number of animals standing next to each other is if they're in pain. So much of pain is inflicted on them just to cramp them up. So what I've heard, and increasingly, like I've heard about what happens in the breeding industry. We all want a pretty dog, as you said. We want to get a Shih Tzu, and we want to keep
nice
like a nice
Instagrammable
looking pet.
family
But
pic,
breeding
yeah.
industry, all of these industries exist on exploiting the female body, exist on exploiting our reproductive system and our sexual organs to get what for profit, literally for profit. Because breeding industry, female dogs again forced to artificially inseminate. As soon as the puppy is born, they're sold very young, because that's when they're super cute and all of that. And she's continually being impregnated over and over again to breed and produce as many puppies as possible. That's the reality of the breeding industry. It's the same in the dairy industry. The egg industry, male chicks are killed instantly. I've seen this in India where they're squashed. You know what we used to like squash our vegetables? You've seen that tool when we make pav bhaji. They literally use that same tool to squash male chicks alive, because again, unprofitable to the egg industry. Every single female animal in all of these industries is exploited for her body. And that bond, when you talk of a mammal, the reason we're called mammals is essentially because of that, the bond with our children, the motherhood, is broken instantly. And the same cycle continues over and over again. You tell me if that's okay. So everything I've learned from the podcast, whether it's from a health perspective of what dairy does to our body, because again, more than 60% of people around the world are lactose intolerant. Our mothers gave us the amount of milk that we needed while we were babies. After that, imagine getting on the milk of a mother cow that's meant for her calf, as adults, literally. So understanding the health implications, because I've reversed my PCOS, I've cleared up my skin by going off dairy. Like I've seen the energy levels, increase after quitting animal products as well. So I've seen the health side of it.
This is not makeup, this is your skin?
This is my skin.
What are you
And
saying?
there's no treatment. I've never done
Can you
anything
please
invasive.
abolish the beauty industry? Because you don't need it then. Are you serious?
I have a layer
You can't be this naturally good looking.
I have a layer of powder on, but this is my skin.
Oh wow.
And I had massive acne growing up. I have pictures, like the before after pictures. I had massive acne growing up because dairy causes inflammation. I had PCOS because again it's causing hormonal disruption. The milk of that pregnant cow obviously has hormones, and we're ingesting that. So the hormonal issues that women are going through, getting off dairy helped me reverse that. So I've heard it from the health side of it. I've heard it from the ethical side of it, when so many people, including Acharya Prashant, have come and they've said that if you're consuming violence, the inside of you is going to be violent as well. The animal is well aware that when it's going into a slaughterhouse, it knows it's going to be killed. It smells it. It's smelling the blood, it's smelling the fear. And when you're ingesting that, your body is going to be violent. You're ingesting all of that vibration, all of that energy, everything that the animal felt before it was killed. Imagine what's that doing to the center of your core. So I've heard that argument. I've heard it from animal activists and what they do to save one animal life. Because for us, it's honestly about one individual life. Because if you were in that position, you'd want me to fight for you. You'd want that abuse to stop right now. Not tomorrow, not 5 years later, not saying, oh, hey, I'm gonna stop eating, I'm gonna stop reducing. You'd want it to stop immediately. That's what we're fighting for, one animal at a time. So I don't care if the whole world goes vegan, but if we manage to save 5 animals, 10 animals, those are individual lives that are saved.
It might not be a comforting sign, but it definitely is an honest sign. And the truth sometimes make you feel a bit uncomfortable. And the truth here is that the beauty industry itself is a very, very ugly industry. It is disastrous. It is horrible. It's unclean. That's what you have come to understand from it. Now, what is it that you have against the beauty industry? What are the practices that have shocked you and you feel that if this is the way they do it, that we don't want them? If they change the way they do it, then we need them. What have you seen and what have you observed?
So a rabbit told me this. I recently had a conversation with a rabbit and I heard it straight from its mouth that we still continue these practices that are so ancient, testing on animals, when we have so many alternatives.
Like?
So there's lab-grown human skin, there's AI modeling, there's really cool innovative methods that are much more accurate and do not require us to test on animals at all. There's so many animals in labs. There's pigs, there's monkeys, there's dogs, there's rabbits. Most frequently, rabbits are used in the beauty industry. That's why you have them on the cruelty-free logo, the Leaping Bunny logo as well. And most of these, even though we're testing on these rabbits, they go through so much suffering. Their eyes are filled with chemicals. Their skins are their skin is lacerated. You'll see them being force shaved, cramped in these tiny containers, just for us to look pretty. That's the cost of us looking pretty. When we can do without it. So all I'm asking people to do is if you buy a beauty product, make sure that it has a cruelty-free label, it has the Leaping Bunny label, or it's PETA approved, it's PETA certified. There's a lot of labels out there. Just make sure if you're looking pretty, no one else is suffering for it.